Ambassador Cohen, good to have you here.
It's good to be here, and good to be here live in the studio with you.
We enjoy it as well. Let me start off by asking you, if you could, I think this term modernize, NORAD, is bandied about. I'm not sure everyone sitting at home knows exactly what it means. From your perspective, what does that mean and how important is it?
Well, I think your introduction set this up perfectly. I mean, NORAD is a unique defense alliance and defense agency. It is the only binational defense alliance in the world, and it is our principal source of defense. Canada and the United States' principal source of defense for this hemisphere. And I'll crystallize it even more. A lot of recent reporting on this. It is the principal defense for the Arctic, as an example. So NORAD was created, it was armed, it was designed for threats that existed 10, 20, 30 years ago. And we're in the 21st century now. We're facing 21st century challenges with a very different China, a very different Russia than we had before. And we need to modernize NORAD to make sure that it is capable of confronting and combating and being successful in holding off 21st century threats from countries like Russia and China. And that's NATO, and that's NORAD modernization.
And what does it require? Is it a complete overhaul, for example, of the warning system? So the thing that will tell us that something is coming, because the nature of the threat, as you described, has evolved. The nature of the missile has evolved so
Correct.
much.
So I don't want to go line item of what it is that needs to be done to modernize NATO. Frankly, those judgments are military judgments, and we've got a fantastic military command at NATO with excellent technical resources and forces. And I think both Canada and the United States are looking to the NORAD command to specify what is necessary for modernization. But it is a combination of personnel and equipment. It includes technology, so the warning system, the types of missiles, the launch mechanisms for those missiles, the equipment that we would need to be able to have a strong defense for the challenges that we face today in this continent. Those are the types of issues that would be included in NORAD modernization. How
big of a priority is it for the administration you represent to see increased investment from Canada? So
I'm going to put this in a slightly different way. I think modernizing NORAD is a extremely high priority for the United States, and I think it's a high priority for Canada. You would not have the Prime Minister visiting NORAD if he did not think that NORAD was a high priority for Canada. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think the last time a Canadian Prime Minister visited NORAD was in 1977. And so having a Prime Minister visit NORAD in 2022, in a sense, that's a very good explanation as we want to bring NORAD from the way it was manned and the way its equipment was structured in 1977 to what the needs are in 2022. So it's important to the United States, and it's important to the United States that we do this together with Canada. But I think it's important to Canada that we do this together with the United States. If Canada wasn't committed to modernization of NORAD, they wouldn't be talking about it the way they've been talking about it the last 6 months or so. Canada's preparing a NORAD modernization plan, which it will unveil. And so yes, it's important to the United States, but I think it's a shared priority between the United States and Canada.
I think you told, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, my colleague Chris Hall over at the House, that based on your conversations about this subject, you did anticipate some sort of release of that plan from the federal government here in this fiscal year. Is that still what you anticipate? Or could it be fast-tracked?
When I was in government, I resisted my elected official principles in ever making a prediction about when things would be released, because you inevitably would have to backtrack on them. I don't think I said in this fiscal year. I think I'm going to adopt the Canadian construct, which is the The government is working on a NORAD modernization plan, and we can expect that it will be released shortly. I believe that's the phraseology that's been used.
Oh, I'm familiar with the phraseology. I get a lot of answers like that. I'll tell you why I'm asking. It's not just to pinpoint a time. It's because I think the way in which it has been discussed and the way in which even officials from NORAD who have visited Ottawa, for example, in the past number of years have conveyed it is that time in this instance is of the essence. And I think Canadians and Americans have been acutely reminded of that in the past 100 days, given what has happened with Russia. From your vantage point, how important is this? Is it that this is not just something talked about and done a decade or two from now? How important is time of the essence?
So I'm known for answering directly, so I will say time is of the essence. I do think Russia's illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine has put a sharpened focus on the need for all of the world's democracies to unite and to be prepared to deal with what might have been unthinkable Russian aggression 6 months or a year ago. So I think time is of the essence, but there's a lot of space between this fiscal year and a decade or 2 decades from now. And so I think time is of the essence. I think there is a sense of urgency on the part of both the United States and Canada. There's certainly a sense of urgency by our NORAD command structure to begin to make investments and to make change to modernize NORAD. And I think that we're going to find a true partnership between Canada and the United States in accelerating the modernization of NORAD from a personnel and from an equipment and from a strategic perspective.
Without that modernization, is the continent vulnerable?
So again, I'm not a military expert, but
you're privy to a lot of intelligence, right?
Which I wouldn't talk about on the air. Even though I love this show, I still wouldn't talk about intelligence on the air. But I think I think one of the things that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has demonstrated that everything is vulnerable. And I think that we wouldn't be so committed. We, the United States, wouldn't be so committed to NORAD modernization. Canada wouldn't be preparing a NATO modernization plan if there wasn't a concern and a fear that in the absence of our having the most viable, forward-looking 21st century joint defense alliance in NORAD, that the continent is potentially vulnerable. And that is why time is of the essence.
Okay, Ambassador, I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on the air. Good to see you.
You too. U.S. Ambassador to Canada, David Cohen. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.